with a board behind him that leaves a lot of questions in our minds. Grant Williams, 5 seasons, currently with the Hornets. But the interesting thing that we really need a lot of brain picking with you today is you started the season with the Mavs, and of course we know you best as a Celtic. So you have all the answers. We had not an argument, but we were having a discussion before we came out.
It was an argument.
It was an argument. Jayson Tatum, he gets nitpicked. That's what Chandler said, right? And we're trying to figure out why. Do you agree that somehow, some way, we just give him a harder time than most?
Yeah, I feel like he definitely receives a lot of criticism that he doesn't necessarily need or need to receive. I think people nitpick him because of his talent across his team, and they expect him to lead and perform at this level. But when you're surrounded by the people that he's surrounded by, he can have an off night. And at the same time, you've got to allow a little bit of grace. This guy has been a 25-point per game scorer over his entire, almost most of his career, getting triple doubles night in, night out, and leading a team. Sometimes leadership doesn't necessarily mean you're the elite scorer of the night. It might just mean that the team is playing you a certain way, and I think that's the growth he's had. You know, if you look at the former final series when we played the Warriors, you could probably see that he was forcing a lot more shots. He was playing a little more downhill, trying to show and grow into that superstar label or role of a Kobe or one of those other guys. Versus now, he's allowing the game come to him. He's allowing his teammates to make plays. Drew Holiday having one of the best games. This might be one of those series that we look back to where, you know, Steph Curry, when that finals run when Andre Iguodala won the finals MVP. But no one was telling Steph that he was less than because of the fact that they won a championship. So I'd rather win a championship than be labeled this superstar that loses.
You know what? You're right. We should have told Steph he was less than.
I just don't find him boring at all. I don't find his personality boring. I don't find his game boring. I think there's a lot of other superstars in our league that are way more boring
I'm the only one
than Jayson
in my
Tatum.
defense. I'm not the only one. I know this for a fact. I listen to a lot of
What does boring have
stuff.
to do with anything, though?
But we're human beings, so you gravitate naturally, whether you know it or not, subconsciously towards some players and maybe not others. And I do think some of that's at play here. It's nobody's fault.
Who's a non-boring superstar? Because I would wonder who is.
Luka's not boring. He's
Anthony Edwards isn't boring. But I'm saying, like Kawhi Leonard has embraced being boring. That's his thing. He is boring. Jokic just gets the hell out of it. He's
Jokic
boring.
Is hilarious.
But I'm saying, Grant's right though. There's a couple big personalities that are in the spotlight always. But like Jayson Tatum, I'm just
trying to solve a problem here, Grant. Just like the board behind you. That's what we're doing. We're trying to solve the problem of why we are all on top of Jayson Tatum all the time for no reason. But you said earlier in the season that what'd you say? Shut up. God. Hopefully that the Celtics can get over the hump this time and they're more equipped than anyone else. So I'm not trying to start anything, but are you rooting for the Celtics over the Mavs?
That's not necessarily rooting for them. I would say that I predict them to win just because you look at both teams, and I've said this before. I think the Mavs do win Game 3, and I think that they end up losing Game 4 at home. Luka doesn't want to go out like that, wins Game 5 in Boston, and then the Celtics close it out in the Mavs home court. But that's what I would assume happens in this playoff series because I've been playing for both sides. Like I know Luka, and he's not going out like that. Like he's gonna win at least 1 or 2 games and try and carry the team to win 3 or 4. Kyrie's not gonna shoot the way he's shot the past 2 games of the series. I think tonight he's gonna have an explosive game. This is the game that I expect the Mavericks to win by a sizable margin. Maybe not sizable, but probably 10 points. And I honestly expect this to be the game that people say, okay, it's going to shift the series. But I think Boston comes in Game 4 and really just sets the tone.
Grant, you were in the finals with these Celtics just 2 years ago. But why do you think they're more equipped this year than they were a couple years ago?
Yeah, I feel like the team looks a little bit different. Having the Kristaps Porzingis, or when he's playing and healthy, his ability to have mismatches and to punish that on the other end of Dallas, it kind of makes it complex on how you can guard. Interested in seeing how tonight goes with Al. I know they beat him earlier this season with Al in the regular season, and you know they're still a difficult team to guard. But Kristaps provides that length at the big position to be able to block shots and really disturb Luka and Kyrie at the rim. So I expect to see a lot more switching. They've done a phenomenal job of switching Lively and Gafford, which I think limits Luka's ability to throw that entry pass on a pick and roll. And I'm expecting a game that's going to be fun to watch, but I really think they're more equipped because of the Kristaps Porzingis role. And I do think that this team has grown. This 2 years, they've really committed to playing the right way. And Joe Mazzulla's a real credit for that. He's a person that you can look to as a leader that's really got this team to embrace the move the ball mentality and hit the open guy and make open shots. Derek White has had the evolution of his game a little bit in part to his work ethic, but also in part of Joe Mazzulla and the guys around him.
Gee, you were traded by both these teams, the Celtics and the Mavericks. Did getting traded by one of these teams hurt more than the other? I got traded once in my career, but it was from Memphis to Atlanta, where I basically pushed myself out and asked for it. Did one of these kind of bother you more than the other?
Yeah, I would say that the issue is, I didn't really necessarily get traded from Boston. I signed to Dallas. I think I could have possibly went back to Boston if things were a little bit different. But in terms of the Dallas trade, that's probably the one, since I was actually traded, that probably means a little bit more, just because, you're going throughout the season, you're playing through injury, you're doing stuff, you're trying to commit to the team, and halfway through you get moved. But I think it was they did me well. They communicated throughout the entire process. I knew a little bit early than I would have expected. And I think there's no bad blood or stain from me from that organization. I was treated with respect from St. Marshall. Cuban texted me actually after the Western Conference Finals win. And, we had a long conversation. And then, Nico and those guys, I'm fortunate to be able to have spent some time around them. And although that, it's a little bit tougher just because you got traded, I feel like that's compared to Boston, which was kind of my intent.
I like that. You went back to Boston in April, did not get a video. So I want to know who you pissed off, and were you upset that you didn't get a tribute video?
The video itself, honestly, they were giving most guys videos, whether it was Rob, Malcolm, and Smart. And then the game before, I think a couple weeks before, Rob had texted Twist or somebody and said he doesn't want a video. So if Rob does not get in the video, it makes no sense to give me one. So I expected to happen. It definitely sucked, because I was like, it would have been cool to see the highlights and the highs that we had throughout that team, all the way we finished and complete the run. We definitely had some great moments, and but at the same time, I can always remember those by watching TV or going back and watching games.
Yeah, Jay, I wanted to ask, because in March of last season you had received your first DNP. What changed the dynamic in Boston? What changed? What do you feel like went? Where did it go left, the direction of the team?
I just feel like, it was a complex process. I remember going through it, and I was frustrated. That's probably the worst teammate time I've ever had. Just because it was kind of a little bit, unfair. There was kind of things out of control of why I wasn't playing. But I remember JT and JB had my back, and that's when I got back into the rotation in Minnesota. Played 34 minutes after that. I think Atlanta and Houston game that we lost Houston, and I think we won against Atlanta. But there was some things going on within the team, and I know JB and JT actually went and spoke with Joe, and made the claim that they need Grant, we need him to play, and it made me feel valued. So even if you look at that playoff run, I didn't play game one of any series, so it's kind of interesting on why that would be. But I played every other game, so it was just a lot of stuff going on that was out of my control. But sometimes those things happen. As we all know, you're in NBA. Sometimes there's balances that happen, but you have to stay. I learned Al Horford and Blake Griffin. You have to stay consistent through it all. My mental approach couldn't change, and I think that's where my growth came from that fourth year, and actually allowed me to go into this fifth year with Dallas and take the trade and all those things with a positive mentality and a hope and belief that things will work out.
And you had the opportunity to plan for both of these coaches. What are some of the differences in playing for Jay Kidd and playing for Joe Mazzulla?
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Jay Kidd's a savant. He's a guy that always look back to that play against the Clippers. I think it was in the first or second round when Kyrie Irving, they ran a ATO for him, and he had hit a tough, pull-up three that first possession. The next possession, he pulls Kyrie to the side, says, run it again, but James isn't playing PJ, so just throw it off over the top immediately. And no one really considers that stuff, but he sees offense better than anyone, and then Sean Sweeney does a phenomenal job of defensive tactics. So that's a different. And then Joe Mazzulla is a little bit more, European in his approach. He's I wonder, he's a Man City fan, true and true. And Pep being there, I know that was a dream of his. And I think that he takes a lot of his tactics and a lot of his approach from the movement, the kind of, pace and understanding how to play with one another. And I think that he's actually more of a gifted offensive coach than he is a defensive coach. And I think that part of the reason why Boston's so successful is, they have the offense. That's what was the biggest crutch over the years, is that we always were a top defensive team and our offense would be variable. And you look at this year's team, and they have so many different avenues and ways of beating you that, even scoring them is hard because they still have Jaylen Brown as the lead, who's taking the real, focus on being the best, one of the best two-way players in the league. You have a Derek White and Drew Holiday, who we know are all defensive candidates, and then Kristaps, who's an elite shot blocker, Al Horford, who's on his whole career. So, but J Kidd, I feel like, is more of a basketball savant on both sides, and then Joe is a little bit more offensive gifted.
Grant, last year with the Celtics, obviously you guys had a lot of battles with the Miami Heat, especially Jimmy Butler, and specifically in Game 2, you and Jimmy were jawing at each other. And after the incident, obviously Jimmy took a lot of pride in taking over. Do you regret poking the bear now of Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, I still don't think it was a poke the bear moment. Like, I remember when I shot the three, Jimmy said something under his breath, or said something to me, and that's why I started talking.
Yeah, right? What could he have said?
Part of my French, hell no, that guy ain't here today. Nah, I'm here. That's all we were talking about. So then if you look at what we said when he got the and one, all you said was, I'm here too. It was like the most corny trash talk that we've had. At the same time, I look back to that game and I'm like, hey, I think it gave us a little bit of fight. And even if they did win Game 2, we didn't take care of business at home. We went back in that series, had a chance to win it. Just Game 7 fell through, and we could have made history. And I think that team, if we look back, could we have done things differently, or can we pinpoint one moment? I don't know how to really answer that question.
I got to ask you about something Mike Gorman said, longtime Celtics broadcaster. This was after you left. So partly I want to know if this was ever said while you were still there or only after you left. But he referred to you as a bad locker room guy. Why do you think he would say that? I know. I also don't love that it's when you leave.
And how would the broadcaster know that?
Yeah, I don't know. What's he talking about?
I honestly think that he was riding the waves of what the media was running with. Ever since whatever his name is, Tim McMahon, has been saying all that stuff about me, trying to, incite some type of competitive violence, I guess. People were just hopping on that wave. My teammates had my back, even Jayson and D. White, other guys kind of spoke up about it.
Yeah.
Even those guys in Dallas, like D. Jones, I still talk to some of those guys still to this day. And I'm thankful for the relationships that I've made in this league. I try not to engage and stuff like that. Mike Gorman has a respectable legend career in Boston, and he retired this year. So I try my best to treat him with the respect he deserves. No matter if he doesn't do the same for me. And just, I try my best to, treat people with respect through the industry. And I've never been considered a bad locker room guy at any point in my career. So I know kind of the value that I provide. I know what my teammates view me as, and that's all that really matters to me.
What's funny is when I was in Dallas, we were going to sign Charlie Villanueva. And there's all this stuff, how he's a bad locker room guy. And then you meet this guy, and it's like, this guy's the coolest dude I've ever met, one of the greatest teammates. So it's funny how that narrative can get around, just one comment the media picks up. So I'm glad you don't buy into that bullshit.
Grant, you play with both. Obviously, you play with both Jayson and Jaylen, and through these NBA finals, they've been trying to pick them apart. Which one is better? Which one is this and that? I want to ask, what sets these guys apart? And do you think one is better than the other?
That's the question I was excited about. Honestly, I think they're two. They're like oil and water. They're a little bit dissimilar. Because it's hard to compare their two games because JB's more of a fast twitch, downhill, explosive athlete, inconsistent shooter, but he impacts the game by his energy and his intentiveness. And when he's on, he's on. Versus JT's more of the I'm gonna play my game, I'm gonna focus on, making sure that not only do I get to my spots, but I can create for others. And I think that he's a more leadership personality in the sense of how he plays versus I think JB has a more of a vocal leadership to him. So I think that you can pull pieces from both of them. You combine them both, they'd be probably one of the best players, if not the best player of all time. But similar to how you look back to Scottie and MJ, they didn't play the same. No one was ever comparing, trying to say one was better than the other at the time because they won so much. So I think that as they continue to really when they get to the point and level and win consistently at the highest level, like whether or not they win 1, 2, maybe 3 championships, no one's going to be speaking of that anymore. But the fact that they've always gotten to a point where they've won, but really haven't really taken that step of winning NBA Finals. They've made it to the conference finals, I think, 5 out of 7 years. Like, what can we talk about? Like, these two are winners. They're two guys that complement each other. And that's the narrative that we should be saying, not that can they play with each other. It's a matter of, will they have that growth and leadership at 26 years old and 28? Like, they're both young. Like,
Yeah, they are. They're babies.
It is funny. They're so good. They're so successful together. We have to find some sort of debate or argument to try and.
Well, we do have to fill an hour every day, as does every other show across the board. But it's like a main topic, and they're both great. I just wanted to get to the Batman of it all, and I'm sorry, but for as long as you live, this will follow you with good reason, by the way, because it wasn't just executed perfectly. The costume was like top of the line. I loved every minute of it, but one guy did not seem that amused. I present to you Exhibit A on why Jayson Tatum gets killed. Here he is.
Best part about this team is that we take care of each other. Defensively, that's all we can accomplish.
Who was the best Batman? Other than you?
Christian.
Hey, you didn't break.
You did not. Like, all right.
Gotta respect it.
I would have lost it.
Let me just say one thing. Ever since that day, Jokic has been busting my ass ever since. So I would like to say thank you to Jayson, Jaylen, and my father for starting that nickname. And I'm excited to continue to guard and try my best to stop one of the best players in the league.
Heck yeah. Keep it going.
Amazing.
Did they laugh, like, by the way? Because I remember everyone was sort of like, what is he doing? And the fact that you never broke character was pretty good. Did anybody roll their eyes, or were they just like, you're insane?
Oh, JB started dying laughing afterwards. JB was just like, kind of like, what are you doing? Like, he was like, what are you doing in the interview? Because the issue was I didn't bring, Batman didn't bring a pair of clothes. So when I played a good game, I had to do the interview, and I was like, "Oh crap! All I have to wear is this. So I might as well fully commit." So I fully committed. And
I'm assuming you guys won that game. Could you imagine if you lost the game?
Gotta go to the podium.
Dressed as
Sneak
Batman
out.
after getting dubbed by 20.
It's fortunate. Like, I maybe need to start wearing Batman costumes into every game because I played pretty well when it's happening.
That's funny.
Not a bad idea.
So, Grant, Mavs assistant GM, Michael Finley, he shared a story after you got traded about how Luka played in a practice against you, and you tried to get under his skin. Was that true? What can you share on that story as far as, the legitimacy of that?
Yeah, what I'll say is that, like, my job on that team was to bring the best out of everyone. So, like, when I got brought there, I remember Cuban kind of pulled me to the side and, asked me to be a leader and be a guy that challenges guys and doesn't kind of settle. And so in the beginning, I was doing that. I remember the first day I was talking trash to starting Luka up and trying to get him motivated to go from the start of the season. And so that practice itself, I remember, I don't know if it was because if it was that practice before the Lakers game when I got into LeBron, if it was a different practice. But, like, I remember we had a big discussion in the locker room, film, and talking about, being prepared and stuff like that. And at that practice, I said, you can't wait to play. Like, I'm sick of, like, you going through these drills, blah, 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 blah. And so he basically turned it on. We started playing pickup. And it wasn't like, I always say, like, it wasn't like he was busting just my ass. Like, he scored probably 5 points on me of those 26. I would love to see the film because they have it. But, like, he got a lot of switches, and he was pulling at some people. He had, honestly, I know Finley said it was like a 28-5 run or something like 20 or 25-6. It was honestly like 32-6, and our team was just cooked. And that's what a special player is gonna do. Like, when he decides to make shots and be aggressive, like, you expect that. And I remember that day as a benefit more than I do as a detriment, because I look back to that and I say, like, honestly, I'd rather him play at that level at all times than come in one day versus the other. And I think that if you look at his physique, and I don't think I can credit that to me at all, because I think Luka is a lot more focused and honed in, even prepared for this season. in his career. So if you look at his body type, how skinny he is at the time, how athletic he looks, like I think he's going to be one of the, if not the best player in the league for years to come.
Grant, you didn't get a chance to play with Kyrie in Boston, but you did in Dallas, and you spoke very, very highly of him. Why do you think people on the outside just misunderstand him? Why do you think he kind of gets the rep other than the obvious things that he kind of went through in the last couple of years?
I feel like he's not adopting social norms. Like, he's not going to follow somebody's lead just because they said it. Like, he's going to challenge and he's going to question. And some people don't like divisive. Some people don't like or don't embrace a dialogue or conversation. And I think that in his years in Boston and his years in Brooklyn, you know, he was true to himself. And that's what we all want to be as athletes and as people. You want to be your authentic self when you come into the workplace, and you want to be your authentic self outside of it. So, you know, it kind of, I think, rubbed people the wrong way. And some of his decisions, although could have been different, like he educated himself and became even more, you know, of the complexity individual that he is. And I think Dallas has really allowed him to be himself. Like, even when they tried it yesterday, I think I saw a post of like Kyrie Irving wears his own practice uniform into the final game. It's like, what are we doing, guys? Like, he wore different clothes than his teammates. Like, yeah, some people are different. They want to be uniformed and they want to be like everyone wears the same thing. But like, at the end of the day, him wearing those clothes, what does it do for you guys? What's the difference of him wearing a more than an athlete shirt than a Dallas Mavericks jersey? And you want him to play to the best of his ability. So why not just allow him to do what he feels comfortable enough to do to be the best of himself? And I think that Dallas has really given him that opportunity. And I speak highly of Kyrie because, honestly, as a teammate, he treated me with the most respect. He treated me with grace, and he treated me with a level of veteran leadership that has been some of the best in my career. And I know Karis LeVert and a lot of others would say the same.
Grant, there was that viral moment, you and Satu Sabali, which you know was coming. But I laugh because we've got our own Riz master right here in Shams, who gets crushed anytime he's seen talking to anyone. So you got killed a little bit, and she's now since talked about it. You know, we're friends, you're business partners, all that stuff. Would you like to tell the nerds out there anything if they mocked you for talking to a woman? Maybe they hadn't done that before. What do you want to say?
Yeah, because I remember that day vividly, and she didn't know why I had my contact tree up, but I think I had Finley and Dirk's number because you looked at the game. I was sitting beside Finley and Dirk, and I got it as we were. So I remember she walked up after the game. And I was like, all right, cool, like hug and blah, blah, blah. Because we've known each other for, like you said, for years. Like, I've known her since I was like 2017, 2016, like in college. So even now, we're still close friends to this day. And I think I talked to her yesterday. You know, it's one of those, like, we just are good friends and we treat each other with respect. And in all honesty, like, I think we were talking about, like, grabbing drinks or hanging out, blah, 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 and later that week or whatever it is. Like, it's not like it was that crazy. So like, that's why when all this thing blows up and stuff like that, I just kind of just like leave it be and let people talk because that's all they want to do.
Yeah.
With that being said, Shams, are you dating anyone?
Yeah, Shams, tell us more about you. Okay.
Give me a scoop.
Grant, I want to ask you, you were traded back home to Charlotte, even though this is your first time missing the playoffs in your career. What's the experience been like being back at the crib, being able to play in front of your hometown?
Yeah, you know, something that you never would have expected. You know, when you talk about playing at home at this young in your career, you're always just like, I never want to do that. But now that I'm here and being embraced by the friends, family, and the people that really, you know, love and care about me, like, it's been amazing. Like, I've really enjoyed the process of playing here in Charlotte. And honestly, I think that we have a direction that we're headed that we would not expect. I think that no one's going to believe that. No one's going to believe the words until we put the action. But I think that Charles and the front office and Jeff Peterson and the owners and Rick Snall and Gabe Plotkin have a real, you know, goal, and they're really committed to being one of the premier organizations in the NBA. And I think that we're going to be there sooner than people think. And I'm excited to show people, you know, what we're capable of. And I think that Charlotte is going to be a team that, you know, has always traditionally been a quote a laughing stock or been a franchise in the past 20 other years of it being a franchise. But I think that now you're going to see that there's going to be a little bit of a direction and there's going to be some maturity.
So, Grant, you're one of the lead executives of the NBPA. I've also seen you at the Michael Rubin White Party, so you're very well-versed. What are your summer plans? I know you've also got a charity thing you did. I think last year with the Mavs, you had a golf outing. Nico Harrison, Jason Kidd, you know, other people with the Mavs showed up to that. What's your summer look like? How diverse are we going to see your summer plans?
You want to hear my July on top of August? Let's just I go from Cabo to Spain.
Yeah, we're talking.
Spain to France for contributing for the Olympics. Yes. After contributing for the Olympics, I go to Rwanda, serve on the board of the foundation, or I'm on the board of the foundation doing work there. Then Cameroon, same thing. Then back to France to continue to contribute.
Dang.
But then for my foundation, luckily, I have my charity golf event on August 26th in Carmel Country Club that I'm going to be doing, as well as I have my basketball camp this upcoming July 16th through the 19th that I'm super excited about. I try my best to, be immersed in the community and to really give back, because I wouldn't be here today without the mentors and the people that allowed me to be here. So it's one of my number one focuses is having an impactful foundation that does not only things go along with mentorship, financial literacy, technology, and as well as athletics. So that way that incorporates exactly what my family has raised me in, and I hopefully can give those same, tools to the next generation so that they can either not make the same mistakes that I did, but also be way more prepared and adept for the future that they have.
Wow.
Passport.
Grant, I'm going to Cabo on Sunday if you're there and you want to play a little golf.
Hold on. You notice he didn't list anything else that was.
Well, he said he's going to Cabo first. I'm going Sunday. We'll play a little
all
golf.
All I heard is him saving the world. I hear you saying
all that other stuff
Cabo.
was really impressive.
That's brutal. By the way, Grant, we've thrown a lot at you and some poking was going on there, and you were awesome. So we appreciate the time so much, man. Enjoy all the things you just listed off for your summer.
Much appreciated. Thank you guys for the time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We'll be back.
Sir.
Run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up.